This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 74, about the Gotham Season 2 finale, episode 22, Transference.
Hey, this is Drew Powell. I play Butch Gilzine on Gotham, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome back, detectives. Welcome back, Gothamites, to our finale podcast about Gotham Season 2, Episode 22, Transference. This is Gotham TV Podcast, Episode 74, and I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
And I am, or am I not, one of your other hosts, John. Maybe I've been infiltrated by Clayface.
I think you might have a better wig than that.
I have a massive grin on my face, though.
That's such an interesting bit of this episode, isn't it?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into discussing this episode. But as you may know, if you've been listening to our podcast, this is a big week for us and Gotham. We had obviously the penultimate episode last week, episode 21 of the series. And then I traveled to London for a special screening of the season 2 finale episode that we're going to talk about tonight, which was also attended by Sean Pertwee, Robin Lord Taylor, and Corey Michael Smith, along with only about 35 other people. So a really small room full of guests there to watch the season finale in the UK.
Yeah, rub it in, fuzzball. Whilst I was left at home editing the podcast.
Well, you know, sometimes.
Which was then reviewed and given a mark out of 10.
So untrue, listeners. But yeah, really good event. Really delighted to have been there. I think originally when Channel 5 bought Gotham in the UK, we'd been covering the show for about 8 months at that time when they released the first episode of season 1, and we were invited over to the UK to watch the premiere at that time, but we weren't able to make it. So this is our first opportunity to get to meet the lovely people in Channel 5. I want to say a huge thank you to them. Made the evening great fun. Lots of stuff going on for Gotham fans. The small group of us that were there, and great to meet some of the other Gothamites. The evening kicked off, which was great fun, with some free cocktails. All Gotham-related cocktails. And boy, were they strong.
At this moment, I was drinking tea up to 23 minutes of the podcast. I'm only messing, obviously.
Of course.
That sounds... And what type of cocktails were there? You did show me the list, which made me even more jealous.
I know. They had the Gotham cocktail, which is probably the strongest cocktail I've tasted outside of Long Island iced tea, and bourbon in there, and some martini in there.
Was that the same vial of liquid that was used by Theo Galavan on Zargoid, the Destroyer? Were you all breathing blue gas by the end of it?
But I was quite happy after 2 of them, I will admit.
But that sounds nice. And a gin Alfred, was there?
And there was a Catwoman-inspired drink, an Alfred-inspired drink, Enigma-inspired drink. Yeah, lots of drinks. Lovely canapes as well.
Yeah, I noticed that. I felt sorry for poor Robin Lord Taylor because there didn't seem to be an Oswald-inspired drink.
Yeah, there didn't seem to be a Penguin-inspired one, unfortunately.
Maybe it was all the cocktail umbrellas in the drinks.
That could have been it. But yeah, great start to the evening, and then we proceeded into a little auditorium where we got introduced to the season finale by Ralph Little, who was the presenter for the evening. You may remember him for UK viewer of TV. You may remember him from
The Royal Family.
The Royal Family, and 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, I think, was his other TV show.
Yeah, he was also the lead singer of The Verve. Well, he does look like Richard Ashcroft.
He looks a little bit like Richard Ashcroft. But he did a great job. He's obviously a fan of the show. He does seem to know Sean Pertwee quite well, actually. Seemed to be a fan of the show. Talked to the cast after the fact. We got all 3 members of the cast up on stage for a Q&A specifically with the crowd that were there. One of the things, I suppose, just to make sure I say up front, during the event we weren't able to record anything or take any photographs ourselves during the event. It was to ensure that there were no spoilers for the season finale coming out of the UK. There was a funny moment when one of the people that is a fan of the show was asked to sign her release form, saying she wouldn't release any spoilers about season 2, and then said, "You do realize this aired a month ago in the US, so so all the spoilers are out there on Twitter." But all of us obviously kept to our word. We're not going to spoil the episode before it airs, obviously.
But she does have a fair point. Does the fair maiden?
She did, yes. But it was a fun little moment. I did obviously say that we have had the problem with our Gotham Twitter account, where we do tend to get tagged into a lot of images of the final episodes. So I didn't get spoiled about this episode. I only knew one thing that happened in this episode before watching the finale, which was great fun watching it with an audience. There was some great moments in there. It's a crazy finale. I think when you called me after there to just ask me my general opinion, I just said, a bit mental, a bit crazy, but that's what we've come to expect from Gotham, really. So.
Absolutely. It's what makes Gotham, ultimately. But you asked a question, did you not?
Yes, I did get to ask a little funny question of Sean Pertwee. I did ask.
Well, it's a cookery-inspired question.
Yes, I did get to ask a question. I asked Sean Pertwee, who is the voice of MasterChef UK. I asked him if he would have loved to do the narration for Oswald's signature dish that was presented to his mother in one of the episodes. Gave him a great laugh. He had to explain where the joke came from to his fellow American cast members, who may not be as aware as the rest of us are about how many years Sean Pertwee is doing the MasterChef show. So
Sandra has confit the duck breast and poured a red berry jus over it.
Or more likely, Oswald has slaughtered his two stepbrother and stepsister and is now serving them to his stepmother.
Covered in blood.
I just thought it would have been a great
With a
moment.
sprig of thyme.
Aye, but there was some really fun stuff that came out of that. There was as part of the interview, Ralph Little asked the cast whether they had been inspired by the comic books. Sean Pertwee specifically said that he couldn't take much from the comic books because we haven't seen much of this side of Alfred. He referenced some of the books that he took as a little bit of inspiration when the older Alfred talks about his younger days in Batman Year One. He referenced that, but not a huge amount.
And Earth One as well, wasn't it?
And Earth One, yeah. But he says he doesn't take a lot from the comic books themselves because he's trying to create a brand new version. He takes a lot from the basics of Michael Caine's Alfred, being, that kind of lovable, local London guy, that kind of attitude he takes from him. But he wants to be that character, much younger in a very different kind of version. Robin Lord Taylor talked about his inspiration coming from a specific book about the Penguin, that where he's a young character and is constantly being abused and is constantly being beaten up by a bully in school, and eventually he learns karate and he learns to beat back this bully who eventually becomes King Shark. He knocks out his teeth at the end of that particular comic book.
Okay, excellent.
So quite a cool way to cover that character. And again, Corey Michael Smith mentioned that there's not a huge amount of backstory of Enigma, so he does like the idea that he's creating him from scratch. But he did talk about some of the books that he read as well.
Yeah, but there's Jim Carrey's classic performance,
which he avoids, I think, completely in his role in the show. But yeah, great time. Really good to get to meet the guys afterwards as well. I got to have autographs from all three of them and get to say hello and get a photograph with them. So really, really fun start to the week.
Sounds a great evening, absolutely.
Yeah, it was really good fun. Really good to meet them all and good to kind of shake their hands and say thanks for all the work they've done this year.
Yeah, I think at this stage I was burning the midnight oil working on the webpage.
Sorry about this, John, but
I'm messing.
But at least we got to go and see Star Fury this weekend as well.
Absolutely.
We have recorded a little bit about our experience of Star Fury, which will drop in at the end of our review of Season 2, Episode 22, Transference.
Absolutely, but to hear about all things Gotham, including season finale premieres, convention events, as well as the finale of Season 2 of Gotham, Episode 22, remember that you can subscribe and listen to us at gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes, or search Gotham TV Podcast on any other good podcast catcher such as Beyond Pod, Podcast Addict, or Player FM.
Absolutely. And if you want to keep the conversation going after the season is over, you can obviously send us emails to feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. You can send us any kind of voicemails or any kind of audio thoughts you want to send us by going to our website at gothamtvpodcast.com and pressing the send voicemail button.
And if you want to keep the conversation going on even longer, even further, then you can come join the Gotham TV podcast community and other Gothamites on our Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV podcast, or follow our Twitter handle at Gotham TV Podcasts.
Yeah, our last live tweet of the year was there.
I know.
Yeah. Well, not the year, I suppose, because we're not going to be that long on break between season 2 and season 3.
That's true. This was very long for us. I mean, in a good way, but it did start back in early October when we were over in New York for the comic convention. Mm-hmm. And obviously we caught up with the, I think 3 or 4 episodes of Gotham that had aired and watched one obviously at the event. And then we took a break until it came onto UK and Ireland TV. So it's almost been a full 12 months of some description having Gotham going around being aired to the point where we actually re-released the first 4 episodes.
That's right.
But yes, it won't be that long till we come back. It should be premiering again at least, I would say in the USA around September time again.
Yes, and now Channel 5 have actually confirmed that they do have the rights to season 3. They will be broadcasting it in the UK, just like they have for the last 2 seasons. Hopefully it'll be a lot closer to the US airings than it has been this season.
Yeah, that would be cool. But I think with that, it's on with our 5-point discussion of the final episode of Gotham, Transference. Derek, what are some of the production case notes?
Well, yeah, the season finale, as usual, really is written by one of the head executive producers of the show. Bruno Heller this time took on the...
and dare we say creator?
The main creator for the show is Bruno Heller, and he's been involved in the show since the very beginning, so he got the final episode of the show. Lots in here to tie up, so obviously great to have one of the regular writers and one of the main people behind the scenes in there. The show was directed by Eagle Eggleston, who again has been one of the main driving forces behind the direction. I think this is his 5th episode or 6th episode that he's directed of Gotham.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so really good to have his touch on board in the episodes. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your final synopsis for Gotham Season 2, Episode 22, Transference?
Sure. Jim Gordon, Bruce Wayne, and Lucius Fox are trapped at Indian Hill, held prisoners by Hugo Strange, as Basil, disguised as Jim Gordon, draws the GCPD away from Arkham Asylum. In the basement, Hugo Strange, using truth serum on Jim, along with Ed Nigma using the threat of poisonous gas on Bruce and Lucius, question the 3 hostages to find out what they really know about who controls Gotham. At the same time, Strange prepares to evacuate all of his test subjects upstate and to detonate a bomb to destroy all evidence of Indian Hill at the command of the secretive council. Fish Mooney has other plans, bitch, and gains control of Miss Peabody, who allows her to break free of her cell. Fish wreaks havoc in Indian Hill, thwarting Strange's escape plan. As Bruce and Jim and Lucius also escape, aided by Selina Kyle, they manage to stop the bomb just in the nick of time to save Arkham and apprehend Strange. However, Fish escapes Arkham in a bus loaded with Indian Hill inmates, but encounters old friends, Oswald Cobblepot and Butch Gilzean, who mistakenly think they are taking out Professor Strange. As Butch and his gang flee at the sight of a resurrected Fish Mooney, a shocked Oswald is put to sleep by her newfound powers. In the aftermath, Jim leaves Gotham to find Leslie Tompkins. Harvey grudgingly accepts his role as captain of the GCPD. Bruce sets his sights on the secretive court, much to the irritation of Alfred, and the city of Gotham will be met with a new threat as Strange's creations escape the bus and start their new lives in Gotham.
Yeah, loads of setup in here for Season 3.
Absolutely. Yeah. Loads and loads and loads and loads. And it was just so really good. I mean, loads of juicy things. And even people who didn't make it onto screen, such as Captain Barnes, such as Tabitha, are they going to get resurrected from their hospital beds and rejoin in Season 3 in some capacity? Or will, I don't know, there be a huge electrical outage at Gotham General Hospital and Captain Barnes will be lost to us all?
I really hope not.
Who knows? It could really happen.
Absolutely.
There was some of that at the start of this season where a few loose ends just were quickly tied up. So I do wonder whether that might happen with maybe a couple of characters that weren't in this finale. But I did absolutely love this. It was actually a really good tie-up, really, given that sometimes it can be really difficult to do. This was a nice tie-up. It certainly tied up Season 2. It certainly gave a lot to think about with regards to what might happen in season 3. So really good.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to see how they tied up the show. I loved how it was all leading to the big climax in Arkham Asylum. Really liked that whole concept of having it just kind of right in one location where all of the characters get to meet up. Barbara's reappearance seemed a little bit odd, given that the last time we saw her, she kind of been kicked out of Butch's house because of how crazy she was getting.
No, it was a little odd, but I have to say it's one of my points.
It's definitely some great moments in there. But let's get into our points. If this is your first time joining us, we know that some people join us for our first and final episode of a season, oddly enough. But if it's your first time joining us, the way we cover our episodes is we talk about our top 5 points about an episode, whatever they may be, good, bad, some indifferent. Then we talk about our notes just to kind of go through the full episode. So John, do you want to kick us off with your first point?
Well, I'm going to roll with the old Babs, actually. I think I really enjoyed having her back on screen and being fully compos mentis. I think, as you say, it was slightly weird that we had seen her a bit of a wreck in the previous episode that we'd seen. I think it was maybe episode 19 or 20. You know, she had kind of been a bit of a wreck. She was thrown out of the King of Gotham's house where Butch and Tabitha were. Tabitha obviously wanted her around, but Butch wasn't having any of it. So it was odd that she was back and that she was back seemingly all right and not frazzled at all. But I actually really, really liked what she did in this episode.
Me too, yeah.
I have absolutely, for season 3, want to see Babs and Oswald working together. There's that great moment where she comes in to get information for him in the GCPD, and she uses the police phone to call up Oswald. And to be honest, this prospect of a season 3 team up where Babs is kind of a right-hand woman for Penguin, I really want to see. I mean, Penguin's really chuffed with the good work that she's done. And I think that would be a really kind of interesting take for the Barbara Keene character. I mean, she's already taken so many twists and turns from what the comic book character is that, to be honest, at this stage, just go with it. I really want to see her team up with Oswald. And so I actually loved that she was working with both Oswald and also Butch Gilsey in here. And I loved the moment where, obviously, and we have to talk about this, is where Oswald is placing his new decoration in his home. The spiked head of Grace Van Dahl preserved. And I love how she just says, maybe that's a bit too central. You don't want it to dominate the room. Absolutely classic. Really good little bit of humour there. Really macabre. And, you know, I mean, again, we have Oswald here listening to the TV or watching the TV, listening to the radio, and suddenly, you know, the smile of vengeance comes upon his face. You know, he's gotten Grace, he's gone after Theo, and now there's the third and final to make the Trinity, which is Hugo Strange. And luckily he doesn't get to him. Strange has got to stick around. So good. But yeah, for me, Barbara, Strange, how she appeared and that she was fine. I loved what she did in this episode. It was really, really good. Yeah,
totally agree. I just kind of maybe needed one little extra scene, perhaps with Butch calling her to come back because he's lost Tabitha now. She's in hospital. Maybe he just wanted to call her up and say, I need a bit of support. Do you want to come back over? Or maybe she's there because he's told her about Tabitha being put in hospital. Something like that. Just a little scene. It's very possible it was something that was filmed and then edited out or was in the original script and then edited out. Look, again, I love these scenes of Barbara. I think she's really, really good. There's the other one that I want to talk about, which is my first point, which is obviously Clayface as Jim Gordon in this episode. Barbara plays a big part in this bit, but I really loved it. I thought the humor was really well played. It's great to see Ben McKenzie doing something different other than the normal Jim Gordon in the show.
It seemed like a really brooding Jim Gordon, we got smiley Jim Gordon. I liked smiley Jim Gordon.
It was good fun. It was good fun. What I couldn't understand, though, is how did Harvey not see through it? Is he just drunk again? Is that why he didn't see through the whole act? Because it's plainly not Jim Gordon. Something has clearly happened to him. They are aware of obviously Galavan being brought back. They're aware of some strange going on in Arkham. I know it's a bit of a leap to think that your friend may have been replaced by a clone. Do understand that. But there's some moments there where you're kind of going, Harvey, you're a detective. You know that something's wrong with your best friend.
He's a captain.
Yeah, exactly.
he is higher pay grade and still doesn't get it. I think it is. It's the whiskey.
I think it is.
He's never truly understood who or what Jim is because he's been so belugas, with whiskey.
Yeah.
He still thinks this is just Jim. But I love the incessant smiling and winking from Jim Gordon here, or Clayface Jim Gordon. It was just so much fun. I mean, I think that must be one of the things that must be great for characters where they have to play someone else, a doppelganger, of which there is another one we see towards the end, and no doubt we will come to.
Yes, we will.
But it just allows to provide some variation on that character, where they can play something different. And certainly I think for a TV series where it's week in, week out, I think that must be really important for a character actor.
And it certainly looks like Ben McKenzie's having so much fun with it after 43 episodes of playing Jim Gordon, the stoic professional detective. I think he's been in every single episode. I don't think there's an episode without him. In fact, even an episode with just him and Oswald, really. So it's great to see him having so much fun with this part and kind of lampooning his version of the character, I suppose.
Definitely. And just coming back to Harvey Bullock, in his defense, he does say that Jim looks like a sack of fish at one point. And also the officer that Jim refers to as Hoss does say, "You look kinky." Sorry, I mean hinky. I mean hickey?
Hinky.
Hinky.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I don't actually know what that means.
It's like something out of Scooby-Doo. Do you remember Velma and Scooby-Doo used to say those kind of words? Jinkies.
Okay. So instead of like swear words, it's kind of just, it's the @ symbol and the hashtag and the exclamation mark.
Kind of like that, yeah. You look off, really, is all that he's saying, yeah.
You look hashtag.
Yeah, just, you look a bit weird, yeah.
Yeah. So, he maybe did think there was something odd, but you never know.
Absolutely. But I love that it takes Barbara's knowledge of Jim Gordon to kind of break the spell that everybody else seems to be under. Even Alfred is kind of going, I know there's something weird about you. I love that he turns around to Harvey and says, "Are you taking care of this?" Knowing again in his mind somewhere this isn't Jim Gordon. But it takes Babs' moment with him where she said, where he's suddenly back into her again and trying to say, do you want to go out on a date with me? Kind of thing. And then she says, "Well, what about Lee?" And he goes, "Screw that hoe." Is that right?
It certainly is. I just love Clayface Jim's honesty. To be honest, all of this was like the reverse of, this is what I felt Jim Gordon was always thinking about Barbara. Oh, screw that. But he's saying about Jim, and that's why Barbara immediately knows this isn't Jim. Spring is coming. The rabbits are about to get their act on. So, I mean, Clayface Jim has got one thing on his mind here, and Barbara knows exactly that this isn't the real Jim Gordon.
Exactly, yeah. Really loved these moments. Love this version of Jim. I think it's great fun. And again, this character can come back in the future. They have captured him clearly, and they have put him into prison, I presume. But again, that little right hook that reveals that this is Clayface from Barbara. Really good moment for her in the episode. That's my first point. John, do you want to take us on to your next one?
Yeah, it's more of a question. What is going to happen to Strange? He is, arrested for sure. That's fine. His plan has gone completely awry, or, him trying to destroy all evidence of Indian Hill, move the inmates up to a new facility upstate. That's all gone absolutely awry here. But yeah, he's arrested. No doubt he might find himself back in his own facility in Arkham, given that it didn't blow up.
That's right.
But he was also both fired and iced at the same time. And I'm wondering, does that do anything to his brain? He had the frost on one side and he was glowing slightly on another. So, okay, Hugo Strange is a bad person, but does that send him maybe psycho bad rather than simply officious bad like he has been. I mean, ultimately he's taking orders here. He's kind of, he's the man in the white coat just taking orders and not thinking about the implications of it. Is he a bit like that? Is he fully invested? And now, will something happen? Will he get sort of fried in Arkham himself if he's locked up there? Will he be taken to Blackgate?
Will the warden become the inmate?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, and this is the other thing, and this is why I sort of pose it as a question. Yes, he's arrested. Does he go to Arkham? Does he go to Blackgate? Does he become sort of really bad Hugo Strange, like we know from the comics as well? Or will the Court of Owls catch up with him?
That's true.
Given the information he knows, given the questions he was asking Jim with the truth serum, given all of that, the Court of Owls, that secretive council, is bound to want to get rid of all leads back to them.
Absolutely.
And maybe this allows the setup of Talon in season 3 with the objective of getting after Hugo Strange. And maybe that would be a really cool thread running, at least maybe initially in season 3.
Yeah. The actual warning that the head of the court gives to him is you can't let any more of your creatures, your monsters, escape into the city of Gotham. That's the big warning. She says, you've had one got out. That's now gone. That's cleared up, but no more are able to escape. And every single one of them escape into Gotham. So absolutely. So I presume he is on the hit list for the court, definitely. So it'd be interesting to see if that's how they bring in Talon. That'd be quite cool. The assassin of the Court of Owls. That'd be quite cool if they got to bring him in next season.
Absolutely. Derek, what's your next point?
I want to bring in Peabody versus Fish Mooney.
Absolutely.
I loved this scene just because I thought it was hilarious. A really good, kind of slapstick moment. It's almost my Batman 66. There's a better one later on in the episode. I just loved that Fish's hand is sticking out of the cell, as Peabody inches closer to her and she misses catching her once and then misses catching her a second time. And then the third time Peabody walks in to give her injection to knock her out. Peabody says to her, "Give me your right arm." And you see the flicker in Fish Mooney's eyes where she goes, "That's exactly what I wanted to do for the last 2 hours when I've been missing you." A funny little moment for Fish. But yes, we have Peabody controlled by Fish Mooney again. It's just going to prove that Fish doesn't just have to ask for cheese sandwiches. She can get more out of the people she controls, which is good. Gets on the escape route out of the facility using the best person possible, which is Ethel Peabody. I love these scenes between the two of them. Really good fun, particularly when Fish is trying to get a rise out of Peabody and says to her, "I'm not number 13. Maybe your mama is." And Peabody comes back to her and says, "You are reanimate test subject 13, and you best not talk about my mama." Loved that little moment, another little strong moment from Ethel Peabody.
But once she's actually been touched by Fish Mooney, I love the fact that Ethel goes, "I'm sad." Fish Mooney is really right about her, that, she is slightly sort of cut off and sad by having this job.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this scene. And one other scene that I absolutely loved with Ethel Peabody, and I will say this got the biggest laugh from the audience that we were with, and it is my Batman 66 moment from the episode.
Absolutely.
Is when Jim and Lucius are trying to disarm a bomb, something that happened almost every episode in the Batman 66 show. They do disarm it as the number gets to 1 second as well. Great Batman 66 moment. But my favorite moment of it is Ethel Peabody on the floor, supposedly giving them the way to defuse the bomb, which is water. Jim runs off to get the water. You see Ethel lying on the floor, stretching out as he runs past. And then he pours the water into the bomb. It diffuses the bomb. And then Ethel goes, "Water. I need water. I need some water." And Lucius and Jim have this great exchange of looks between the two of them going, "Oh, she wasn't even telling us how to defuse the bomb." Great moment. Got a really good laugh for the audience, let's say.
And I mean, even the bomb itself is a Batman 66 moment.
Oh, totally.
This huge globe of pure destruction with flashing knobs and twiddly wires and the countdown. It lands on one and really, really Batman 66.
Absolutely.
Properly. One thing I did notice was that there had been an upgrade in the bomb to place onto gates or to doors to blow off the bloody doors. It In season 1, Penguin uses that to infiltrate into Falcone's and Maroni's inner circle, and I have a classic Batman 66 door bomb with bells and twiddly wires coming out of it. The GCPD Strike Force bomb has been upgraded from but it still looks like 70s sci-fi now. It's gone from 60s Batman to 70s sci-fi.
Absolutely. That is the timeless quality of Gotham that we've come to expect. John, do you want to take us on to your next point?
Yes, I have another question. Who owns Wayne Enterprises?
John is becoming our own Riddler for this episode.
Dun, dun, dun. But of course, it won't be poisonous gas I release into the room.
Help me, listeners.
In fact, actually, that is one of the other points, which was the poisonous gas. It was knockout gas, Ed.
That's right.
But maybe he didn't know everything. In fairness to Ed, he did seem fairly shocked that he wasn't suddenly elevated to second in command at Arkham Asylum. But who owns Wayne Enterprises? And I just really like the fact that you have, Quizmaster Ed asking the same questions of Bruce and Lucius, but in a much more theatrical way.
Oh, yes.
And then you obviously then have Strange going to work on Jim Gordon with the truth serum. And I just really liked the same questions coming out. But I mean, from this, I thought, the Quizmaster Ed was just classic. And we saw that at the end of the last episode. But as well, the truth serum, the way that was portrayed, with the camera and with the editing and so on, I thought was really very cool.
It's a cool touch, yeah.
Where sort of Hugo Strange is behind Jim and he says, I am God, I gave you this guilt and now I take it away. But the blue and again that kind of white specks, I love how they've really characterized Hugo Strange in the psychedelic colors. We've had that previously and we had it again here, where again he's wagging his finger and the finger's kind of going into multiple fingers, as he's speaking very soothingly to Jim to get him to tell him everything he knows. And I just think that use of the effects is really cool, and it's really nice for the character of Hugo Strange. We even see it where when Firefly and Mr. Freeze are fighting, where you have one of his lenses of his glasses is showing the ice and the other showing the fire.
Fabulous.
Really great scene.
It'd be a great gif.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Properly good. But obviously it brings, to an extent, this question, who owns Wayne Enterprises? Even if they didn't find out that there was a secretive court, it poses that question in Bruce's mind. And I love the fact that this ultimately leads to, unfortunately for Alfred, who seemed to want to settle up in front of the fire with a nice hot cocoa, once Bruce now has spurred him on in very much a different direction. Again, something we've talked about before where, is he going to investigate Wayne Enterprises? I mean, this, like Enigma, is now actually becoming a really nicely paced, drawn out thread through the 2 seasons so far.
Yeah, I think we started at the beginning of this season thinking that this was all going to lead to Bruce investigating Wayne Enterprises. We'd seen some stuff in season 1 with some of the board of directors and some of the other members of Wayne Enterprises being being obviously bad people. So we thought this was all going to lead to that. We've now gone through the full 22 episodes of the season, and Galavan has distracted Bruce's attention enough, as has Hugo Strange now, from that mission that he was setting himself to clean up Wayne Enterprises. So hopefully this is something that we're going to get more of in season 3. I was laughing at the question from Enigma where he's saying to him, who controls Wayne Enterprises? And there was no mention at all by Bruce or by Lucius saying, is it Bruce? Because he owns it? Is that not who controls it? Just one of those moments where I was thinking they had 5 minutes to talk it over. It never crossed their mind to say, is Bruce controlling it? But he isn't. We know it's the court. I love the little interplay in there. One of my other points was actually about that discussion between Hugo Strange and Jim Gordon. Just want to come back to it because I really liked one of the moments in there where it's kind of always once a psychiatrist, always a psychiatrist with Hugo Strange. While he's getting information out of Jim, he's also helping him out with his problems, which I thought was really interesting for Hugo. He's saying to him, oh, you feel guilt about that. Oh, you feel guilt about the loss of your child, about the fact that you don't live up to your father's legacy. Well, I'm going to help you out here, Jim. I'm going to remove all of that guilt. I'm going to remove all those responsibilities. It's interesting that he's still doing that. He's still trying to help his patient. I like that little touch of the character. Now, we don't know whether it is for the nefarious reason of him trying to get rid of Jim from the city. He tells him you should be led by love, not by these responsibilities you've put on yourself. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. For the show and for the people of Gotham, it's probably a bad thing that Jim's leaving the city. He is the one that's supposed to be saving them from all of these bad things. Was that Hugo's intention, or is he genuinely trying to help him? It's kind of an open question for me by the end of the episode.
Well, that's the interesting thing, that is posed here for season 3 is, will we see less of Jim Gordon in season 3? Maybe some episodes where he's not in it. Who knows? That could very much be one of the new aspects of season 3. Maybe. If Jim does go off to find Leslie Tompkins and that is played out over a few episodes. Or will we just see a time jump? And of course that might all be dependent on how quickly David Mazouz grows during the summer.
That's true, yeah.
Because we have that flashback in this episode after Bruce has been knocked out by the knockout gas.
Absolutely.
Where it flashes back and you see how incredibly young David Mazouz was from the first episode of season 1, and even midway through season 1 where he's trying that jump for the first time, which then becomes successful in this season.
Yeah.
So really, really interesting just to see how much change there has been in the actor of David Mazouz during the time he's been filming Gotham. So it's really interesting to see how much of a change has occurred for David Mazouz as an actor in the time since that first episode.
Absolutely.
And so maybe there will just be that time jump and it really doesn't become part of the story.
Yeah,
you could get that.
What I kind of like about the setup towards the end of this episode is that it is setting up threads for season 3, but none of them have to be resolved instantly, which I like. It's not like we have to come back. It's not like this huge cliffhanger, really, that we have to see something tie up at the beginning of the next episode. I know we've got the creatures released on the streets, but you could easily say that, that we've been gone 3 months from the city and they've captured some of them and some of them are still on the loose, and that's an easy way to just skip a bit of time in between now and then. You could have Jim living now in the south with Lee, and then they make a decision to move back to Gotham, all happening off screen in their break between season 2 and season 3. So I like how it's been left here. I like that everybody's got their own little mission to do, but none of them are really time sensitive. There's no ticking time bomb that they have to catch or something like that.
Absolutely.
Nobody's tied up in a basement or anything like that. Everybody has their choices to make in their decisions as to how they continue next. So while there is a lot of new threads that are started here, none of them really seem too time sensitive, that we couldn't have a big jump of 3 or 4 months just to accommodate a change in scenery and a change in style for next season.
Absolutely.
So, John, do you want to take us on to your next point?
Yeah, it's the meeting of the penguin and the fish again. And again, maybe a tagline for season 3 came out of this hookup where Penguin goes impossible. And Fish Mooney, once she touches his face and you see that glow and that power transferring, she goes, nothing is impossible. And quite frankly, given what ultimately comes walking out of the back of that bus, yes, nothing potentially is impossible.
Absolutely.
So that could be one of the taglines for season 3. I love the fact that they meet up again. We don't know where Fish goes to. I wish she was like dragging Oswald by the heel and the ankle away. And it'd be fantastic if they could hook up again, or even if Butch and Fish could do that. I mean, Butch just runs.
I know.
He's probably going, oh my goodness, she's going to kill me for what I've done. I've betrayed her and all this kind of thing. But
they did settle their dispute at the end of season 1 before.
They did, but to see her back,
Yeah.
It's really going to be
it's
interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
I really hope that Jada Pinkett Smith persists in season 3 for a good while. I really like Fish Mooney. I love the old wagging of the finger and the click click. Love that. Absolutely classic for that character. I love the fact that her superpower is an enhanced form of her human ability. Yeah. I love the fact that you've got the trio back together of Butch, Fish, and Oswald, at least on the screen, not necessarily as a team. I love that fact. It would be interesting to see how that plays out in season 3.
And what I did notice in this episode is that we didn't get the resolution of who is the King of Gotham right now. So now we've got the 3 people who have claimed the throne of Gotham together in a scene. You've got Oswald, who is King of Gotham, Butch, who took over the seat of King of Gotham, and the Queen of Gotham, who lost her seat when thrown off the side of a building by Oswald. But now all 3 of them are back in a scene together with no resolution to that, no discussion about it even.
Well, that's really interesting. One of the things, I think, when Oswald was intent on hunting down Hugo Strange and was out for revenge again, it suddenly occurred to me, Butch is there, sat with Oswald, Barbara is there, and I just, in my notes, kind of went, interesting, Butch has fallen into line.
Yeah.
There has been no battle for the throne of the King of Gotham. He seems to have fallen in line with the return of the Penguin and has kind of succeeded his throne to the old king.
Yeah.
And there has been really no discussion of that, which is kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting whether there will be any more of that now that Fish has come back. I think one final aspect that I really want to pull out is that as Fish escapes from her cell in Arkham, and Hugo Strange sees that Miss Peabody has helped her out, he goes, there will be revolution and an apocalypse if you were seen in public.
Yeah.
And of course, Fish Mooney not only will be seen in public, but she has released the other monsters into public. So here comes the revolution for Gotham. Here ultimately comes the true descent into chaos that was all forewarned in season 1. In season 3, no doubt.
Exactly. Interesting little moment. I do like the fact that there's a little touch there that they're not actually seeing any of them. So the hobo that releases them, as she's described in the credits, the old woman that releases them from the bus loses her glasses, so she can't actually focus on any of them. So we can't focus on any of them. We can only guess as to who the characters are who are released from the bus. And I'm going to take that as one of my points, I think. Because it's fascinating. I love when they do this kind of stuff. The reveal of Indian Hill back in episode 13, I think it was,
where it was like that,
where we saw Galavan, we thought we saw Fish, we thought we saw Jerome in Indian Hill. We've had some other characters shown, and in this episode they get to do some crazy character creations for this moment where we can't see as an audience who those people are. Will we be able to match them up in season 3? Will we be able to go, oh, that really small crouched character, oh, that's such and such a character from the Batman mythology. The couple of things that we did get, obviously, we finally got confirmation, I think, anyway, that was Killer Croc.
That was the most visible, the most clear person, that inmate test subject that came out of that bus after it had crashed, definitely.
Exactly. And in the credits, he's also named as a Scale Skin Man, so the man with scales for skin, which is different to what we were positing. I think we had some options when we were watching the episode originally.
Definitely. There is another clear person that came out of that bus as well.
There is, yes. The Bruce doppelganger. There's someone that looks just like Bruce with goth hair.
Yeah, it's Goth Bruce, who's just about to track down an Anthony and the Johnsons concert, or maybe a Him concert, I think.
Possibly.
But
maybe a Cure concert. Yeah.
Interesting. That was very, very interesting to see a Bruce doppelganger. This has potential chaotic implications because, okay, you had the long hair, but he also sounded like Bruce. It wasn't kind of the Clayface Jim Gordon that just didn't quite add up. This sounded, it was purely the appearance, but enough hair gel and a bit of a cut at the barbers. Then you could almost see that maybe this Bruce Wayne has been created in order to replace the old Bruce Wayne, so that the people who control Wayne Enterprises have a puppet at the head of the corporation.
That's really interesting.
So that to me was an interesting thing, that this is a replacement for Bruce Wayne in order that Wayne Enterprises is fully under the control of the Secretive Council.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of took it. You know, and that would be very cool if you have this doppelganger set out to disrupt Bruce Wayne and to ultimately replace him.
Yeah. It's an interesting one in the comic books, and I hope I don't spoil anything for those of you that don't read the comic books, and I hope you don't mind me speculating on this one. But in the comic books, one of the most well-known doppelgangers of Bruce Wayne is Tommy Elliot, who gets his face replaced to look like Bruce Wayne. So I wonder if that's how they're going to handle some of the Tommy Elliot storylines, because we did see Tommy in season 1. He's kind of disappeared. We never saw him in any of the scenes where Bruce went back to the school. So I wonder if they're going to handle those storylines that you would need someone that looks very like Bruce Wayne. I wonder if this is how they're going to handle that. They're going to use some of those storylines with this version of the Bruce Wayne doppelganger. I don't think it's Tommy Elliot who's had his face replaced. I don't think that's what they've done.
But that kind of storyline could come in through this. Absolutely. We also had Waddle Man. There was kind of a deformed hand.
Yeah.
That was there as well.
That was like an X-Files kind of alien is the way I took it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It seemed as though Storm from X-Men had somehow made her way into Arkham.
That was kind of the candy floss grey hair.
Big white hair, yeah, that was kind of there. I just immediately thought Storm from X-Men. But,
interesting.
It could be someone else. There seemed to be someone who looked like they had a mask, almost like Scarecrow, a Scarecrow type mask, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So is that Scarecrow version 1? Is that Jonathan Crane's father that maybe has been resurrected?
Oh, I was thinking more, is it not Jonathan Crane himself who went insane and they put him in the asylum?
Yeah, it could be, absolutely.
Yeah. Can I take the big one?
Yes.
We did hear.
The big one's got to be Bruce's doppelganger.
Absolutely. But there was one character that we saw who had a bag over his head, and I think that might be the character whose laugh we heard. We definitely heard the Jerome laugh. It's the exact one that we heard in the episode that Cameron Monaghan played the Joker for the first time. It's that laugh that we hear replayed as they all escape from the bus.
Definitely.
So a nice little touch there, just showing that we'll hopefully see Jerome back again in future. He's now left the asylum. We've got the explanation now from all of the other monsters that Hugo Strange has created. We've got the explanation why he may not be able to remember that history that he had before he went into the asylum. If he's had been imprinted with something by Hugo Strange, it's very likely that he doesn't remember his past. So that's quite cool. Nice little touches there. So hopefully we'll get to see, like that they left the door open for Jerome. He's such a popular character for the show, and I think a lot of people were very disappointed that the character was killed off, even though he's not the Joker. As long as he's this Gotham's version of the Joker, I think people will be really happy to see Jerome back in season 3.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. Loved that scene. One of those really good ones that really makes you look forward to next season. And yes, of course, just like every other Gotham fan, we sat pausing it, rewinding it, seeing if we could see anything, but they're very smart about keeping it quite blinded from the audience as to who those characters are. So there'll be some exciting stuff to see in the next season, definitely. John, do you want to give us your final point of the season?
Yeah, it is Selina's simple psychology. I really liked this part in the episode. I just really thought it resonated with her character. And this is the second time in a row now that this has happened, where ultimately Selina is a class act in playing the game. And we see here that she comes in, she's really giving Bruce a hard time. Looks like she really is just going to leave and get out of there, but ultimately comes back to break out Bruce, Lucius, and Jim. And she just says it's simple psychology. I was waiting for the right moment. She's gotten away from Bridget, crazy fly Bridget. She's gotten away from Strange. He's on the other side of this epic battle being taking place between fire and ice, very Game of Thronesy. She comes back to rescue the three the three guys trapped by Hugo Strange. So I just thought, the heroic moment for Selena, which was really cool. And it just resonates with her character that, yes, okay, she's dubious, she's grey, she's not particularly a hero either, but sometimes she is heroic. So it isn't all just about her, no matter how much she, obviously would wish people to think otherwise. She does have some conscience there hidden away. And again, I just thought this really resonated with the character. And I love Cameron Bicondova's portrayal as well in the episode, and from the last episode as well.
Definitely. I also love her new haircut, I must say. I think it's really cool. This is the new straight hair rather than the curly hair. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She's obviously been licking it.
Yeah, I also love her portrayal of the episode. Really, really good. Really enjoyable. I've just got a couple of notes about the episode. I don't think I have any other major points about the episode. Although I think this was a great fun episode. I thought there was some really good touches in here. I've got to close out with some Bullockisms of the week, because Harvey Bullock had some great moments in this episode. I loved when Clayface Jim Gordon arrives at the station and says to Harvey, "Don't worry about it. He's connected with people that we don't want to go anywhere near." And Harvey goes, "Who isn't in this town? My mechanic's connected." Like that one. "You look like a sack of fish" is another one. And then the final one is, when Jim says, "Oh, the reason I'm acting strangely," or Clayface Jim says, "The reason I'm acting strangely is because I've got the flu." And Harvey responds to him going, "Well, keep away from me because I'm hoping to get laid this weekend." With everything else going on in the city, of course, Harvey's still thinking about his weekend.
Absolutely. I think another great one is, as Alfred says, "Right move, mate," to Jim. Jim turns to Harvey and says, "You're the boss now. You look after the city. I've got more important things to do." And
maybe get a haircut.
Yeah, maybe get a haircut. He hops into the car, and as it drives off, as he speeds away, Harvey's like, "That's my car," as like this hand comes out and Jim's waving goodbye. Really good.
I like that little Alfred touch that he's the true romantic here. Follow your heart, Jim. Follow your heart. Go get after Lee. Like that little touch.
And I know I said it before, but I just loved Alfred's expression as he hears that Bruce still has a quest to do. It is just great. I just loved it.
Yeah, really good. Final point for me is Butch Gilzean and his weapons again. We had our rocket launcher moment a couple of weeks ago. This week we have him as the Terminator carrying a gigantic chain gun. That was awesome. I'm wondering who Butch Gilzean could possibly be morphing into as a character,
RoboCop.
He pretty much, he does seem to have the command of every type of weapon. That's what they seem to be giving him. We had him with shotguns early on. We had him with huge weapons when he had his own gang. We then had him with the rocket launcher when Oswald gets him to take out Galavan, and now we have him with the chain gun. So it seems like he's master of weapons. If you looked at his attributes in the who's who of the DC universe, you'd probably see him as master of weapons. I really like these touches for the characters of Butch. Really nice to see that as well. And obviously, poor old Ed getting locked back up into the bells of Arkham Asylum, being left out, even though he was hugely helpful to both Team Good Guy and to Team Strange. They give him no credit. Nobody gives him any credit. They just throw him into a prison.
Yeah.
Both times throw him back into his cell. So this is probably driving Ed to be even more untrusting of people around him.
Yeah, well, ultimately, the great thing about it is that he's being dismissed again now as the Riddler just as much as he was when he was good Ed Nigma in the GCPD. Nothing ultimately has changed for him. He's being dismissed. Strange goes, you did really well, but you're a psychopath. There's only so much I can learn from you. You're unhinged in the cell. He helps Jim. He goes, what's in it for me? You stay alive.
Yeah.
Back in the cell. So he is just being ignored again. And I wonder if we're going to have a true psychosis moment, with Ed Nigma.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome. There are a few, comic, books and graphic novels out there where, the Riddler is the brains behind everything. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder whether, it's always the thing. He's always seen as being underestimated and taken for granted, really dismissed as a threat. but there are some great graphic novels around which have the main antagonist as the Riddler. And I have to say, I love those ones.
Yeah. In fact, Corey Michael Smith spoke about one of them when he was at the finale, at Channel 5 last week. He spoke about one of them where effectively the plan of Riddler is that he releases some information about some embarrassing information about some upper echelon members of Gotham, which leads to them being accused by all the people around them and then killing themselves. And he saw that as something that that his version of the Riddler would be really interested in doing. Effectively, he's not killing anybody. They're killing themselves. And they're having society turn on them because they did something embarrassing to themselves. So they are the cause of their own downfall, which I really like that twist on Riddler.
Absolutely. And if it's upper echelons, it could be members of the Secretive Council.
Well, yes, but he specifically spoke about Bruce Wayne as being one of the victims in that story. But yeah, absolutely.
Which could be very cool for season 3.
Exactly, yeah. I think that's it for our coverage.
I think it is.
Season 2 of Gotham. 74 episodes so far, all about season 1 and 2 of Gotham. Loads of discussion that we've had so far. Overall, John, how do we think season 2 went in comparison to season 1?
Well, firstly, for the episode, I definitely would give this 4 Goth Bruces out of 5. Absolutely, really enjoyed just the chaos and mayhem of it all. Some of the coming together of the season 2 threads, but also I think this is what Gotham does really well. And certainly, writing it in a way where there's a season 3, you can also, provide that alternative perspective of here are some real juicy bits for what's to come in season 3. And I think, having the knowledge that you have a season 3, that can always help for the finale. It really helps to close it out by giving just these intriguing, juicy snippets. And I thought this just did it really, really well.
Yeah.
So I think, the dice are in the air. It's all to play for season 3. I certainly hope they keep Fish and Hugo Strange. I really, really do. Fantastic.
Well, neither of them were blown up with rocket launchers, so I presume they're coming back.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, for a long time, I hope it's not just maybe for a couple of episodes in season 3, and then that's it. In terms of season 2, I think I still need to think about season 2, but I think initially for me, it is much stronger than season 1. I really do think that, I think they found their groove in season 2. I think the knowledge of having a full, uninterrupted 22 episodes has allowed them to go down a particular route, and they've gotten into the groove of that route. There's been a few points where it didn't just work out for me, but it was only a couple of episodes. But I think they've learned from season 1. I think they've got the benefit as opposed to in season 1 where they know they've got all 22 episodes.
Yeah.
And I think it's really helped with the delivery of the storyline. And I like how they have moved it just into a place of chaos and mania. I think that really works. I think ultimately, after the midpoint of season 1, they were either going to maintain a route that was very much Gotham Central, where it was focused on the GCPD and you would bring in characters along those lines. The problem with that ultimately was that Gotham Central was always set where Batman existed. So you couldn't quite do it like Gotham Central because you couldn't introduce the Joker because the Joker's not there yet. Because Batman's not there to save the GCPD. So just on the very basis that the premise that there's a young Bruce finding his destiny, you couldn't do it that way. And I think now by introducing effectively genetics and a research program, such as with X-Men's, that can introduce all these weird goings on that we know from the universe. They can be version 1s, they can be prototypes, they can be all those types of characters that we love, or it can be that character, and it can be really the background of how they become the big bad, or like with Bruce, how they become the big good, in Batman. Then I think it's really worked this season 2. I think as well, having the ensemble element of it has really made it work very well. So I think overall, I would give this 4 Fish Moonies, bitch, out of 5.
Yeah, I must admit the second season of the show has been really enjoyable to watch. I love the choice that they made to break it completely in the US. Now we have gotten to see it pretty much uninterrupted. I think we had a 1 week break in the full 22 episodes of this season. I love the idea there was a very distinct end to the first half of season 1 and a very distinct beginning to the second half. A huge cliffhanger in between those two that we didn't get in the finale episode. I really enjoyed this finale. I thought it had all the craziness and really exemplified the types of episodes I've enjoyed in Gotham so far. And really good season 2, I think. Much better than season 1 for me. Season 1 was kind of introducing us to the characters. There was a lot of kind of faltering episodes that were okay in their delivery and, you know, not as much fun as we've had in this season. I thought there was definitely a defined path that they wanted to go down with when they started the first 2 episodes, and then it changed and flipped a lot as they went on. And because of that, it probably wasn't as enjoyable to watch as this season has, because we had the overarching threat of Galavan and the overarching threat of Hugo Strange, and now an overarching threat of the Council or the Court of Owls, which we'll see in season 3. It makes it much more enjoyable to watch as a show. I'm really looking forward to getting back to season 3, and looking forward to a bit of a break over the course of the summer, which we will be on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, but really, really enjoyed this season of the show. I think the next episode we'll probably be back for after this is going to be coverage of Suicide Squad, which comes out in about 2 months' time. And then we'll crack into our season 3 start coverage, I think, after that. But that's overall our coverage for season 2. So one sad piece of news that came out just after the show aired in the UK was that Claire Foley, who plays the character of Ivy Pepper, will not be returning for Gotham season 3. That's really sad news for me. Unfortunately, she's actually going to be replaced by an actor who will be playing a more mature version of the woman that goes on to be Poison Ivy. What we've really seen since the beginning of the show is obviously the maturing of David Mazouz's Bruce and of Cameron Beacondova's Selena Kyle. We've seen them mature from being very young in the first couple of episodes to much older characters towards the end of the season. So it is quite sad that they're going to be losing Claire Foley from the show in order to make a much more mature version of the character. John, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm really quite sad, both for myself. I really enjoyed Claire Foley's portrayal of Ivy Pepper. She really just always, whenever she was on the screen, just seemed to enthuse it with a young Ivy Pepper. She seemed to have a great connection with Selena Kyle, with Cameron Beacondova, and I suppose it was only just recently that I think you had said, I really like seeing Claire Foley pop in on screen. I think that was for episode 21, where Bruce is up by the pigeon coop on top of the apartment in Gotham, and she pops up, and okay, she's only in there for a small scene, but nonetheless, it felt right. It feels right that Bruce knows her, but they haven't really taken on this character in this season. And certainly there's plenty that has been going on this season. And it's not that I think they've forgotten about her, but then maybe, I think, as you say, David Mazouz and Cameron Beacondova as Selena Kyle, they've been on screen much more. You know, you absolutely can't recast them. But I think because of the lack of screen time that Ivy Pepper has received in this season, that then I suppose they feel in a better place to be able to recast her. But for that, I feel really sorry for Claire Foley. I thought she was really good. And I thought she had a young Ivy Pepper really down and correct how she was portraying it. And I just feel that if she had been more integrated into the stories of Selena and Bruce this season in a bigger way, then maybe they wouldn't have felt the need to recast her. But I feel quite sorry for her. I thought her portrayal of a young Ivy Pepper was great. And if they're going for an older version, I'm a bit concerned that they will go for the stereotypical comic book look, and that's why they're recasting.
I will say, obviously, we only have the TV Line article to go by. It's very much a rumor piece, very much it's speculation still at the moment. It's been confirmed that the character will appear as a season regular next year and is being recast, and the speculation is that it is going to be a mature character. Obviously, we don't know because the scripts aren't out yet, so we're speculating about that as well. We don't know why Claire Foley isn't going to be on the show. It is possible that she has something else in the works. That means she's not available for a 22-episode series. She hasn't done a 22-episode TV show before. So it is possible just the actress couldn't return for next season. But she always seemed to really love this character, talked about it a huge amount on social media, talked about it in lots of interviews, and seemed to really enjoy the character. So one of the weird things in Gotham is that they never reintroduced Ivy Pepper. In fact, in that episode that you spoke about, that scene in that episode that you spoke about, John, where she's on top of the roof, you don't actually hear Bruce call her name or anything like that. She's just a character that we should know as Gothamites, as fans of the show. We should know exactly who it is when she arrives. That's quite different to recast as a character. They have recast some of the minor characters so far on the show. They have been recast. They have been played by other actors, but usually it's a character with either one or no lines that they've had in previous episodes. So it'll be interesting to see how it fits with the show when this character comes back next season.
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see what they do with the character now. Will they take the spirit of Claire Foley's interpretation of this character and carry it forward? You know, this kind of scruffy street urchin, a bit like Selena Kyle, who's making her way. I mean, we saw that she has been developing her mushroom growing skills. You know, will we see more of that? So it will be really interesting. I hope they still keep it at that kind of level for the time being, and that we see her development as well into Poison Ivy.
Absolutely. One of the things I'd love to see in the next season of Gotham is, again, another expansion to the world. I'd love to see Selena and Poison Ivy working together on something completely different, something not connected to Bruce, something not connected to the GCPD, so they can have their own storyline within season 3. That would be really enjoyable for me to kind of expand the world a bit more rather than it all having to revolve around one central storyline.
Absolutely.
That would be enjoyable.
Absolutely. And I think just on a personal level, I just feel sorry for Claire Foley. But as you say, it could have been scheduling with another job. I mean, it could be a whole host of different reasons. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how the character moves forward with the recasting and how, the script writers take it and how then the new actress interprets that work.
We do have a bit of feedback to talk through. First up, as always, is our email from Natalie. And I want to just say a huge thank you to Natalie for all of her feedback in season 2. It's been really good having some feedback in each and every episode so far.
Absolutely. The feedback has been so good. Really, extensive, but really on point. And I mean, just the wrap ups that you do of each of the episodes, is so good. And we're absolutely privileged to be, reading them out as part of our feedback session. Absolutely.
So Natalie starts off with a solid season 2 finale. If a bit anticlimactic, of course our heroes would be saved and plots wrapped up. The only question was how, and the body count seemed to be nil for once. The main reason no one got killed was that fake Jim Gordon came out just in time to get the GCPD to call off the all-out assault on Arkham. I liked it that even the random cop that greeted him sensed something a little off about him. Refreshing to have the doppelganger be not so perfect from the start. Both Alfred and Bullock also sensed something wrong, but either they had not made the mental leap to Jim's been replaced by a doppelganger, or were waiting for the right time to confront him. Meanwhile, Barbara, who's apparently thrown in with Team Penguin and still sane, strolls in and asks fake Jim what the heck is going on over at Arkham. I loved it where Babs knows it isn't Jim just because of a too quick turnaround back to her, and especially when fake Jim called Lee a hoe. Even at her worst and his worst, the real Jim Gordon would never call Barbara that. Babs was perfect for that reveal and for Penguin's gruesome but comical replacement of Grace on a stick.
Popsicle.
But she was brought back inexplicably. Yeah, same point as myself, actually, Natalie. Remember, she didn't take Jim's rejection well and acted erratically enough that Butch sent her away. Of course, if she is as sane and as together as she seems to be, a few days away might have been enough to calm her down. I just wish there'd been enough time to acknowledge it, not to mention her latest paramour's fate. Tabitha's condition is about as much in the air as Captain Barnes' is.
Absolutely. Two absolute unknowns here. And will they come back for season 3? Do they have a part to play? It's difficult without Theo Galavan. Is Tabitha necessary as such? I really hope she is, and obviously you can make the link through Butch Gilzean. So I really hope so.
Absolutely.
And of course, Captain Barnes can come back and replace Harvey Bullock, and Harvey Bullock will be more than happy to allow Captain Barnes to take the reins again.
Definitely. And remember, Tabitha is Tigress from the comic book, so the character does exist in the universe. So hopefully we will see her back in the next season. Natalie goes on to say, and Corey Michael Smith was perfectly manic as Ed tried to learn what Lucius and Bruce knew, loved the game show touch, like a very impromptu version of what the Batman 66 Riddler would come up with. Only, of course, a more fully realized Riddler would then threaten with actual poison gas instead of knockout gas Ed gave them. Nice touch to have select scenes from Bruce's life flash before his eyes as he awoke. That gas was probably the most lethal thing they had on hand at such short notice, and actually made some sense that Hugo Strange might stock it as an inmate control option. Yeah, really good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Strange acted in parallel to Ed, trying to find out what Jim knows by loading him up with truth serum, or as Strange called it, honesty serum. First, Strange did some actual psychology and talked to Jim about the guilt he's been carrying around. Appropriately enough, Strange played as God, offering absolution. Most others would have chosen the forgive yourself route, but it worked on Jim and likely bought time before the serum took full effect. Ed and Strange both stumble upon a problem plaguing conspiracies. It is extremely difficult to ask what someone knows about a conspiracy without tipping them off to the actual conspiracy. Jim is too interested in trying to find Lee to be concerned about that at the moment. Bruce, on the other hand, has realized from Ed's questions that there is even more to his parents' murder. Someone working behind the scenes at his family's company and wants to pursue it. Alfred thinks that with Strange in custody, the Wayne murder's solved and the young master's adventures are done. When Bruce says no, there's a second counsel. Alfred's reaction is perfect. Oh, bloody hell. All right then.
Absolutely. Loved that moment. Absolutely encapsulates Alfred in such a good way, or at least an element of Alfred and his character, where he really just wants everything to be sorted out so that he can go and about his duties. I wonder if there's an element of OCD there for Alfred, that he wants everything in its place. And that means Bruce Wayne going purely to school and not worrying about these notions of saving the day.
Absolutely, yeah. Natalie says Alfred may now be resigned to his master's dangerous true calling, but he doesn't have to like it. She says that secret council, the Court of Owls, or whatever they decide to call it next season, must be very powerful indeed to have the supremely controlled Hugo Strange in a blubbering panic as his world crumbles around him. It would take a lot to cower a mastermind of his genius and stature. Superpowers are the icing on the already deliciously evil cake that is Fish Mooney. That first face-off between her and Peabody was a great scene between two strong black women. The best part about her resurrection was always going to be Penguin's reaction when he inevitably runs into her. That moment did not disappoint. Since her caress of his cheek did not come with a command, he just fainted. Priceless. We had a small nod to the eternal back-cat dance awaiting Bruce and Selina in adulthood when he apologized to her for manipulating her into this, and she replied that no, she was doing all the manipulating. Actually, it really was on him this season. He needed her skills and contacts. Really good point there. Yeah, I love that Selina is not willing to say that Bruce manipulated her into it, that she's saying it was her choice, and just forgiving Bruce and saying she doesn't get manipulated by anybody. Nice little touch there for Selina. And Natalie says Selina is in it for herself because she's the only one she can trust. Too many people have disappointed her in her young life. She doesn't have many friends, so much as allies that fit the situation. She tries to put up strong walls around her fragile kitty heart and keep everyone at arm's length. Selina wants to believe she's in control of every relationship. Finally, we had hints as to what's coming in season 3. Jims runs off to find Lee, an absence presumably to last not much longer than the season 3 premiere. Alfred heartily approves the romantic. Fish hijacks a bus full of Indian Hill experiments in her effort to escape. After she abandons it, a sweet homeless woman wanders up and opens the back door. She loses her glasses as the inmates escape, her hazy point of view witnessing an escape without tipping off the producer's plans for next season.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Well, except for a thank you for one of the passengers of the bus who looks and sounds very suspiciously like a Bruce doppelganger. That final image both intrigues and annoys me, says Natalie. The kid's origin story intrigues. Is he a Bruce clone, long-lost brother, natural born related lookalike, brainwashed experiment? He annoys for the flip side of why I like the fake Jim plot. Too many evil twin plots go on too long and too perfectly. The good news is he cannot be the overarching plot to the season as a whole, or either half of the split season that we already know is coming. The season we had was just a whole fun ride. Thanks, Natalie. Thank you, Natalie. Really good to have your feedback.
Absolutely. I definitely would say the Bruce doppelganger for me is definitely an intrigue, especially if it's based around the storylines of Tommy Elliott. But I do know what you mean. It can only really go on for so long, but it'll be interesting how it weaves its way into the story and to what extent, if at all. But we just don't know yet, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where the bit of email feedback this week comes from Daniel Butcher. He says, seriously, Clayface totally reminded me of Toy Santa from the Santa Claus 2, which really gave me my own personal Batman 66 moment. I've never actually seen the Santa Claus 2. It's the middle of summer. It's unlikely that I'll watch it, but I know that Daniel has sent me a video clip of that particular scene. Quite interesting that that's what Jim Clayface reminded you of, Daniel. Really good. Daniel says his favourite moment was Butch all dressed up, guns a-blazing into the bus and police cruiser. Wow, he said, I did not see long-haired Bruce coming. I think I'm a clone now, says Daniel. Probably. And finally, he says, probably my favourite is Selena with her mature, straight hair. Alfred has made her into a damsel in distress. She makes it clear she isn't. She did what she wanted, and I assume for who she wanted. And she knows she has Bruce's heart. When the series ends, I want to flash forward with Bruce smiling and laughing in the cave with some peace and a costumed Selena hug him. Agent Daniel out. Yeah, that's a really nice little image there, Daniel. Yeah, I love that moment with Selena when she kind of says, I'm not in it for you, I'm doing it for myself. Really, really good moment.
Yeah, that's really cool moment. Just so empowering for Catwoman, Selena Kyle's character, that, despite what the men think, that it's not simply a damsel in distress, that she is able to manipulate, twist, and get the things that she wants for her own reasons and not for what they think she's doing it for. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. Thanks so much for that feedback, Daniel. Just while I was editing, I got a few other emails in to our feedback at GothamTVPodcast.com that I wanted to share since we're going on break for a fair while after this, so I wanted to make sure I didn't hold them off. Our first email was another one from Daniel, who says, most Batman media argues that Batman caused the villains. Gotham is really the first to give us a view where the villains created Batman. As Harvey says, it's Gotham, and now we can see Gotham needs more than the GCPD for a reason. A really interesting point, Daniel. It's very true. A lot of the comic books have pretty much insisted that without Batman, there would be no villains in Gotham. A really interesting point that this is kind of the flip to that on Gotham. Thanks for that, Daniel. And our final email comes in from Claire Payne, who says, Galavan was right from the beginning. Monsters are coming, and they sure did arrive at the end of this fantastic season finale. There are so many great scenes in the episode. First of all, Barbara Oswald considers her useful, and she did prove useful and was more than happy to help a dear friend. I'm not sure Butch is overly happy with her being around again. Now we know his real feelings and emotional attachment to Tabitha. Barbara's interaction with Clayface Jim was excellent. Totally agree with you. Really loved that scene. Claire goes on to say, Ben McKenzie was a personal highlight in this episode. His Clayface Jim was superb. Alfred was totally confused in the way he was acting, and Harvey seemed to accept the Gotham flu has effect on your personality. Normal Jim with Professor Strange and the Truth Serum is a really clever way in finding out details of his relationship with his parents and what essentially had been fueling his recent anger issues, guilt. I really enjoyed the Hollywood way of defusing a bomb with seconds to spare and poor Miss Peabody desperately needing water. Lucius Fox was used really well in this episode, with Bruce trying to answer Ed's questions to see how much they knew about the goings-on in Indian Hill, and now an opening question, who runs Wayne Enterprises? Ed, as always, is brilliant in helping out Strange and finding what they actually do and don't know. With Nigma still in Arkham at the end of the episode, it will be interesting to see if he's still there at the beginning of season 3, or he solves a puzzle and escapes Arkham. Corey Michael Smith is exceptional as the Riddler, and his gradual development has been paced perfectly. Yeah, totally agree. Really, really enjoy his performance in this show. Back to Claire. She says, Fish and Miss Peabody, I really enjoy their scenes together. I really like the way Fish realizes she has a power within her hands and trying to grab an opportunity to control Miss Peabody, which she eventually succeeds. Fish's encounter with Hugo was also excellent. He really intrigues me, and how he calls Fish his daughter. Fish's escape stealing the Arkham bus, and the inevitable encounter with Oswald and Butch. Butch looking awesome with an 80-kilo machine gun, and out of the shadows appears Oswald with it, and his determination to bring Strange down. The genuine shock of seeing Fish was really good, with Butch running away and fainting Oswald. I think partly caused by Fish's touch to his face is a great setup for season 3. Yeah, Claire, totally agree with you. These scenes are so good. Really enjoyed good old Butch walking in with a gigantic machine gun. And Claire goes on to say, I found Oswald's deciding where to place his stepmother's head really disturbing but hilarious. It was the serious look on his face and Barbara's advice in getting her placed correctly. Also a clever way of letting us know Barbara in some way she is hanging out working for Oswald, like Selena did in the earlier episodes. And finally, Claire says, every character was used so well in this episode, with Selena, Bruce and Alfred discussing the secret organisation that runs Wayne Enterprises. Alfred knows Bruce is not going to stop, with Jim going to find Lee and Harvey told to find the monsters that are wandering the streets of Gotham. This was a really satisfying end to season 2. There was no big tragic death of a character. Hopefully everybody will be returning for season 3. The entire cast is exceptional, even the guest characters. Hopefully we'll see some of them again. The direction, writing and photography has made Gotham a unique, bonkers television show I know I'll watch and rewatch for a long time. Last but not least, thank you for covering each episode in your own unique way. It's been a fantastic 22 weeks. Thanks so much for your feedback, Claire. Really, really good of you to send it in. It's been great having the feedback all season from you on the show. Really looking forward to getting back to season 3 when it comes out in the UK and Ireland. Hopefully as close to the US release as possible. So a little bit of Facebook feedback after the episode. There was a lot of chat about that final scene, about Bruce. That was quite interesting. The first piece of feedback came from Ben Rush, who says, so is this a clone for the Owls, do you think?
I reckon so. I think that's one of the biggest things for me, is that this is someone to replace Bruce as head of Wayne Enterprises, so that the Court of Owls absolutely tighten their grip on the business. That's how I feel it really works into that storyline. But who knows? I mean, it's one of the things. We just have to wait till season 3.
Absolutely. Jason Wiley speculates, is it Thomas Wayne Jr.? Interesting idea there, Jason. Richard Blaze seems to be similar to myself. He's saying, I wonder if it'll be Hush. Bit of a stretch, I know, but interesting now that we do have Clayface.
Definitely. I would love the Hush character as well. That would be very, very cool, I have to say. Just because that graphic novel is one of my favorites. It would be great to see that story put, onto Gotham, and honored in a really great way. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, there's so many possibilities. And hopefully Absolutely. They can work aspects maybe of the Hush storyline, into that, type of doppelganger being the head of Wayne Enterprises. And have it been controlled by the Court of Owls.
Definitely. Loads of really interesting speculation there about that final scene. And thanks very much for the feedback over on Facebook. If you want to join our Facebook group, just go to facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV Podcast. And as we mentioned at the start of the show, we did get to go to Star Fury in Blackpool this weekend to meet up with Drew Powell, Robin Lord Taylor and Cameron Beacondova. Really fun time over there.
Absolutely. Fish and chips, Blackpool Rock.
All right, and here's a bit we recorded while we were there. So the Star Fury Ultimates event took place this weekend, the weekend of the 12th of June, in Blackpool in the UK. It was attended by a bunch of cast members from Gotham, from Agent Carter, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and from Arrow. We had the ability to go over there. Myself and John went to visit. So we're going to give you our thoughts and impressions overall in the convention. John, do you want to kick off? How did you enjoy the convention overall?
The convention was really, really good. And when I say the convention, I mean the whole Star Fury Ultimates event. Met so many people there to begin with that was just so cool. Who we know through Twitter, through Facebook. It was a really great community feel, I thought. And then the cast, from all the different shows, but in particular Gotham, were just so generous with their time, their signatures, their bodies in relation to the photographs. I mean, they spent a lot of time being photographed, a lot of time giving their autographs, the Q&A sessions that were there as well. Really good, but I mean, really intimate. I mean, the 1 hour Q&A session with, Butch Gilzean, obviously played by, Drew Powell, who was there. There was Robin Lord Taylor, obviously Oswald. And then there was, Cameron Beacondova, who was Selena Kyle, obviously, or who is Selena Kyle on the show. The time they spent answering, fan questions at that Q&A session is way above what you normally get, say, at New York Comic Con, where maybe you get a preview screening, maybe you get a full episode screening. Sometimes maybe it is just a screening event. But, you know, the panel is normally moderated. There's questions primarily that maybe come from the moderator, and then they open it up to the floor. This was very much wham bam right into it. And there was no moderator. It was really interesting. I think maybe they could have done with a moderator, but it actually made it feel that more intimate, because ultimately it was Drew, Cameron, and Robin who were moderating the event and themselves. And it was really interesting to see. I mean, whether they like to do that or not is another thing entirely, but it actually made for a really unique experience, I thought. So that was cool. It was just so nice to get the group photo with me, you, and then obviously the three cast members of Gotham. That was so cool. I love the fact that Cameron said, "Are you brothers?" I can only think it's because of the specs. But no, we're not brothers. We can assure
that was it.
On that we're not brothers. But I mean, it's a fair question to ask. We've been asked it before. So I found that really, really funny that, you know, she would ask that. I think, you know, Robin Lord Taylor, when I went and got autographs from him, he was just like, "Thank you so much for the work you do on the podcast. We really appreciate your support." And even then Drew, you know, I didn't interview him, and he said, "Oh no, that's you're Derek's partner. Really good to meet you finally. It was really nice, really chatty." He gave the fist bump. I just thought they were so generous with their time, but so was every other cast member from all the other shows. I mean, you would have said the same thing for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I certainly would have said that about the Agent Carter crew. I think the only person I felt who maybe was rushed, and that was simply the volume of people and the shortness of time that they were there for, which kind of, I think, counted for that, was Hayley Atwell. You know, there were so many people wanting autographs, photographs, and then she was taking part in a Q&A, and she was only there for a day. So, you know, really, really good. And the helpers from Star Fury, really good. I think, you know, the two things I'd say that potentially or did let it down, but it didn't take anything away from it, I'll say that, is that the hotel, the venue really was just a bit embarrassing.
Yes.
And I have to say that the Norbreck Hotel, if anyone wants to go there, is not, in any way the 3-star that it is. If you...
Well, it's listed as,
you really may want to see some of the reviews, and you might want to consider staying somewhere else if you ever decide to go to Star Fury Ultimates 2 next year, which is, I think, going to be held at the Norbreck again. So there is that. I would generally give people, you know, really consider that, because the venue was not great.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with you. The one big drawback for me, actually, I think it did affect my experience of the convention itself, was the venue. I wouldn't go back to an event held at that venue again.
No, I'd be the same.
I really like the setup of it. And just for some of the listeners, just to give you a bit more detail about the actual event itself, what it contained. So there were tickets that were available which were gold level and regular level. Gold level got a little bit more in the convention over the course of the 3 days or 4 days in total, I believe.
There was the fan meet and greet, wasn't there, for gold ticket members, and they kind of got pride of place in the Q&A up front. So that, you know, there were some special, obviously additional extras that they got through purchasing the gold ticket, like Willy Wonka. Yeah,
they also got to go up front for the queues for any of the autograph sessions and for any of the photo sessions. So really a good priority of place. There was some kind of, some organization, challenges with that, where two big guests would be signing at the same time, or photo opportunities on at the same time. So gold level ticket holders were being called to one event rather than another, which eventually worked itself out of the course of the weekend. But definitely the fan meet and greet, we spoke to some of the gold ticket holders who are listeners of the show and friends of ours, who said that was a great moment. Effectively, it was 10 members of 10 gold ticket holders who would sit around a table, and each member of the invited guests would come to their table and talk to them for a couple of minutes, including all the Gotham cast and the casts of each of the shows, talk to them directly about their shows and obviously have a conversation with them, which is a lovely thing to have. I don't think it's around at any of the other conventions that I've heard of. It's a really, really nice thing to experience from everything we heard about it. But yeah, again, as John mentioned, our photo opportunity was great. Got to meet the guys, got to shake their hands again, and they recognized us again from obviously their appearance on the show in the past for Drew Powell, and for the obviously meeting Robin Lord Taylor at the other event we were at last week as well. So yeah, really, really nice moments and a great community, really lovely people that we got to meet over the course of the weekend. But for me, I wouldn't go to that event if it's happening in that hotel again. At the very least, staying off site, maybe. We probably shouldn't have stayed in the hotel as well.
No, exactly. I mean, I do think it detracted nothing from the convention in terms of meeting the people, despite the surroundings, because they were just so friendly, happy, and generous. But ultimately, it was a bit of a grotty hellhole. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the only thing I would say is do consider that if you're thinking of going, because some people, that would be absolutely the right. Well, I'm not even staying here, and going and having wasted money. It was only because of the community of the fans that were there and the cast that were there, and how well everyone just seemed to get on, gel, bond, the parties in the evening, the cosplay competition, the Q&As, it all worked, but the venue didn't work. And some of the organisation could have been much more upfront. It really could have scheduled it a bit better, because for some people maybe who are just on a day ticket, they suddenly found themselves with, oh, so the gold are going first this day, but regulars are going first the next day, in order to even out things. And of course, if you've only got one day ticket, then you may actually have missed your autograph signature or photo opportunity. I mean, on the first day, we ultimately didn't get to have our group photograph because it was scheduled for 10:30, but because the single photographs went so quickly, it was all over and done with by, I think, 10:15. So we actually missed it. And if you were only there for the day, that was it. They were gone. Yet the schedule said something else. So, I mean, certainly, some of that needed to be ironed out, I think. And I think in some cases it was actually just down to the venue again, why they couldn't organize it better. I mean, we were queuing through the Q&A hall at one point. Another room was right next to the where the cleaners pick up all their supplies and so on. So you couldn't really say have two lines, one for gold, one for regular, and do it that way, just because of how the layout of the hotel was a bit weird sometimes.
But as you said, the guests themselves were great when you eventually got to speak to them. They did take a really good amount of time with everybody that went up to them to try and kind of have a small conversation, however short that may be, with everybody that was at the convention. So really, fair dues to all of them, and fair dues for all the stewards that were really, really polite and really tried to keep things moving along. There's a lot of queuing at an event like this to try and get everything that you want out of it. So fair dues to everybody that was involved in the actual organisation of the event. It was really, really enjoyable for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know we divided our time on the Saturday so that I could go and get the autographs from the cast of Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., who were so pleasant to deal with, really, really good to deal with. And so John could also get to the cast of Gotham himself. So that's an option that you can have if you're there for the full weekend.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, the one thing that really stood out to me was just how even at the autographs, even at the photo sessions, I think the cast still took at least a minute, if, a couple of minutes, it seemed, with each person, maybe a bit more in some cases. If the photo wasn't done and the photographer had to call the person back, they were there, they were happy. I mean, Butch was playing with the crowd, shouting things out.
Drew Powell was fantastic. He was absolutely hilarious all weekend.
Cameron Bickendova was as well. I mean, they all were. I mean, it was just so good. And that's why sometimes actually it even took longer, just because like all the cast from Gotham and from the other shows were all spending really nice amounts of time with each fan. It was so cool in that sense. Something very different from some of the bigger conventions where maybe they just don't have that time. And as you say, the stewards there were really good. I mean, I know I've said a bit about the organization, but the stewards absolutely bent over backwards to make sure that if you had missed something, that they would get another opportunity to either have that photo or to get that autograph or to put you at the front of the queue or for you to skip the queue if you were leaving or if you had to catch a train or whatever it was. So the stewards were absolutely spot on. Absolutely excellent.
Yeah, but so for our listeners, obviously the Gotham fans, there's a couple of things that came out of the Q&A which were great fun. Things that we may not have heard before about some of the future of the show and some of the explanations of the characters themselves, of how Oswald got into character for certain scenes, or what Drew Powell's thoughts of certain scenes, and what Cameron Bickendova thinks of when he's doing certain scenes that came out of the Q&A, which were really good fun. As John mentioned, it was a really interesting idea to not have any kind of moderator to move along the questions, or to kind of guide the questions as they went, particularly in front of an audience of fans of the show who can sometimes be quite difficult to get up to ask questions. There was a kind of a bit of a dead silence at the start because the Gotham panel was the first panel of the weekend. So nobody really knew how it worked. And there was kind of everybody was waiting for someone to go up and ask a question. Once it got moving, the guys were really interesting when they talked about how they get into their process of the show. There was one great question about how Robin Lord Taylor got into character for the scene where he declares himself the King of Gotham, where he was saying that effectively this was his first big break being on the show Gotham. And after 22 episodes of the show, he was standing looking out over the city of Manhattan, looking at the Empire State Building, shouting essentially to New York that he is now the King of Gotham, the King of New York. He was channeling the fact that he had gone through so much in his career, some really down times just before going into the series of Gotham, and now he's achieved a goal and become a lead on a TV show. That's a huge moment for him. I thought that was a really interesting one.
Yeah, that was really, really interesting. I know I asked whether Robin Lord Taylor would have liked to have shoved the umbrella anywhere on Theo Galavan the second time around, and I believe it began with an A, but could have been an ear rather than anything else. Butch said that when he got that script and he saw what happened and how it just intensified the death and destruction raining down on Azrael, poor ex-mayor Theo Galavan, that he just thought it was with the rocket launcher and the bazooka. It was just great. And in fact, he mentioned that the MIDI gun that's used, it was originally not a MIDI gun, but they upscaled to a weapon of mass destruction purely because the bazooka had worked so well. It had been so appropriate that they thought, okay, we'll tool him now with a MIDI gun. I think it was just supposed to be a rifle or something, or a shotgun at some point. Yeah. So that was really cool to see. We also then asked how Cameron how she felt playing against Michelle Ventimiglia, who plays Bridget. You had her as her friend, helping her out, trying to protect her from the Pike brothers and all the bullying, and then her becoming Firefly. And Cameron Bickendova just said she loved working with Michelle. Anyway, they really clicked as friends. And so to play opposites and those two different types of character being inhabited by the same actor, that was just really, really cool to do. I mean, I thought it was really, really cool, the whole Q&A session. Some really, really nice questions. The questions that such as, if you could be anyone else on the show, who you would be, what was your favorite scene, all these types of different questions coming from the fans. So it was really cool.
Definitely, and I really like the little talk that they had about what's happening in season 3. They have confirmed we will definitely see Mad Hatter in season 3, which you may have noticed in the season finale. There is a moment when you do see a hat. I think it's just as they're boarding the bus rather than when they're getting off the bus. You see a guy wearing a hat getting on board. So that's going to be really interesting. They also call the character at the end of the show, they call him the Bruce Doppelganger. So don't refer to him as any of the other things that we may have speculated about during our podcast episode. They call him the Bruce Doppelganger. So I thought that was quite interesting. And he will be back and will form part of the show. The final two things they mentioned were they were getting scripts this weekend. Just while we were there, the scripts were effectively being delivered to their homes, while they were in the UK, and that recording and filming for the show will begin somewhere around the 22nd of June. So filming starts really, really soon. The show just finished in the UK, and within a week they'll be starting back up on filming for season 3, which is really interesting to know.
Yeah, really cool.
I think that's everything about Starfury, John.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely check it out next time it comes up. Consider the venue, definitely investigate it, check it out. But it's a great place for meeting people who you may know already online. It's a great community, and it adds something really special, I think, to the convention program, because I think it gives you an intimacy a bit with the cast. I mean, I say that to a degree, it gives you that intimacy. I think we always have to remember that, in the same way that we have, our own personal space, so do these men and women who are actors on these shows. And I mean, the great thing about it though was that, if they didn't want to do something, put on a bit of clothing or get into a certain position for the photographs, or even if, it was about maybe asking for a kiss or something, if they didn't want to do it, they would say it, and that was that. And I think, in that sense, everyone respected the boundaries of these cast members. Everyone is different, each to their own, and I think that goes for cast members as well. And I just thought it worked so well, and it certainly adds so much by being so friendly, having that closeness to the cast with the Q&A, the meet and greet, and even with the time that you get to spend at autographs and signings. Sometimes they can be quick as well, but there's a lot of people there, so there's a real nice balance, though, I think, in the main, about getting access and time to talk and spend. And I think sometimes for a lot of people, it's just about getting over those initial nerves of seeing their hero or someone who they really like on a TV show, and just suddenly trying to pluck up the courage to speak to them. But again, they're really, really good with that. I mean, just before I asked a question of the 3 Gotham cast at the Q&A, there was a mum and her daughter. The mum asked the first question, and the daughter wanted the mum to ask the next question, and the mum just nudged her daughter to say, no, you ask them. And then she stuttered a bit, but the Gotham cast just absolutely helped her along. It was really, really nice. And she ended up asking her question. I thought that was really, really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're really, really good with their fans. Definitely, such an enjoyable experience. If you see something like it, and you don't live in the UK, obviously, if you see something like it in your local town or somewhere local to you, check into it. The smaller these conventions are, when they only have a few members of the cast, like this one, there actually can be much more enjoyable than some of the bigger conventions or some of the more world-renowned ones like the San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con. If it has the guests you want to see at it, you can actually get much more time with them. You actually get some time with them rather than just looking at them on a stage,
Definitely.
And I'm hoping that they maybe perhaps bring one to London that I'd be interested in going to, or Liverpool or Manchester, a place that's a little easier to get to for us than somewhere like Blackpool, and hopefully in a better facility or a better location as well in the future. But that's it for Star Fury. Really enjoyed it overall, as I said, and great to meet some of the wonderful Twitter friends that we have and have never met face to face before. Really added to the experience, getting some of the real true fans that we've been talking to for years. Getting them together in a room is always good fun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Gotham TV Podcast, which looks at the finale of season 2 of Gotham. Wow. I mean, like 2 seasons in, a third on its way, at least broadcast and aired in September, in the US. And, yeah, what a ride.
Absolutely.
A fun, frenetic, manic ride, in season 2, where we saw the rise and the wrath of the villains.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, I am still convinced that the tagline for season 3 is that nothing is impossible.
True.
We will see it all, I reckon. How many in other Indian hills are out there? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Anything, absolutely anything can enter into Gotham and change their worldview. But I think thank you again so much, for listening to us. As always, a pleasure, talking with you. We will speak to you next time when we review Suicide Squad, which is out in 2 months' time, towards the end of August.
Yeah, really looking forward to watching that and podcasting about it again. Yeah, as John mentioned, just want to echo the thoughts. Thank you so much to all of our listeners, everybody who shares our episodes, retweets our tweets over on Twitter and follows us over there, follows us on our Facebook group and chats to us each week about the episodes just over at facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV Podcast. It's been great fun getting to know a lot of the listeners and a lot of the people that are involved in the show and a lot of the feedback that we get from those listeners over on Facebook and over on Twitter. And a huge thank you, as always, to my co-host John for all the work he does in the episodes, his insightful analysis of the episodes. Keep it driving as we go.
Absolutely. And thank you, obviously, to Derek for all the hard work he puts in as well on the show, but also as well in post-edit. He only ever lets me touch it a few times in the year.
But yes, thank you so much. If you want to make sure that you get all of our episodes, just ensure that you subscribe to us over on iTunes. If you're an iTunes fan, by going through our direct link at gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes. While you're over on iTunes, just pop in a review for us. It'd be great to have a review or two while we're off during the summertime. We will be back with future episodes, obviously, for season 3 and for Suicide Squad. If you're not an iTunes subscriber, go on ahead and subscribe in iTunes anyway and give us a review. But if you want to subscribe on any other good podcast catcher, as always, just search Gotham TV Podcast. We're looking forward to being back with you in the autumn for season 3, hopefully, if it's airing in the UK at that time. But we will be back with Suicide Squad then.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. We'll speak with you next time.
Talk to you again very soon.
Bye.
Thanks for being a Butch supporter. Butch loves you, baby.